Something incredible is happening right now on the clay courts of Strasbourg, and if you follow women's tennis at all, you need to stop what you're doing and pay attention. A 20-year-old from the Philippines just walked onto a practice court in France and made every single person watching forget whatever they were doing. Rackets were stopping mid-swing. Coaches were leaning forward. People who had seen thousands of practice sessions suddenly had their phones out. That player is Alex. And what she did on that court was not a warm-up. It was a declaration. It was a young woman telling the entire WTA tour, quietly but unmistakably, that she is done being underestimated. The Strasbourg International is one of those tournaments that flies under the radar for casual fans, but every serious tennis person knows exactly what it means. It sits right on the doorstep of Roland Garros, the most brutal, most beautiful, most unforgiving Grand Slam on the calendar. The clay court season is a war, and Strasbourg is where you find out who is actually ready for it. And right now, in the middle of all of that, Alex is exploding. Not just competing. Not just showing up. Exploding. The kind of explosion that makes veterans nervous and fans absolutely electric. To understand why this moment matters so deeply, you have to go back a few weeks. You have to go back to Rome. The Italian Open is a WTA 1000 event, which means the draw is stacked, the courts are fast, the rallies are punishing, and there is nowhere to hide. Alex walked into that tournament and did something that genuinely surprised people who had not been paying close enough attention. She did not just survive. She won matches. Real matches against real opponents on real red clay. She beat players who had been grinding on this surface for years. She moved through the draw with a composure that felt almost eerie for someone her age. And then she ran into Elena Rybakina. Now if you do not know Rybakina, here is all you need to understand. She is the reigning Australian Open champion. She is ranked number 2 in the world. Her serve is one of the most devastating weapons in the history of women's tennis. Flat, heavy, precise, and delivered with a calmness that makes it even more terrifying. When Alex found out she was playing Rybakina in Rome, the question most people were quietly asking was not whether she could win. The question was whether she could survive without getting completely overwhelmed. What actually happened in that match rewired a lot of people's thinking. Alex lost. The score was 4-6, 3-6, and on paper that looks like a comfortable win for Rybakina. But tennis is not lived on paper. In those sets, Alex pushed back. She absorbed serve after serve and found a way to stay in rallies that had no business lasting as long as they did. She constructed points. She slid into forehands and unloaded with a heaviness of ball that visibly forced Rybakina to adjust. There were stretches in that match where a 20-year-old from the Philippines was genuinely dictating play against the second-best player on the planet on a clay court in Italy. That is not a small thing. That is the kind of moment that changes a player's relationship with herself. When you feel that for the first time, when you realize that the gap between you and the absolute pinnacle of the sport is something you can actually close, something shifts inside you. And whatever shifted inside Alex in Rome followed her directly to Strasbourg. The practice sessions here have been something else entirely. People on the ground are describing them in terms that you usually reserve for actual matches. The weight on her forehand is extraordinary. Every ball she hits is loaded with topspin, the kind that drops sharply, kicks violently off the clay, and forces the opponent to strike from an uncomfortable height above their shoulder. This is not accidental. This is the direct product of years spent training at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca, where the philosophy of clay court tennis is baked into every single drill. When you spend your developmental years learning from an institution built around the greatest clay court player who ever lived, the topspin becomes second nature. It becomes your language. And right now in Strasbourg, Alex is speaking that language fluently. Her footwork has also become something genuinely beautiful to watch. Sliding on clay looks effortless when it is done correctly, but the mechanics underneath are incredibly complex. You have to read the ball early, commit to a direction, let your momentum carry you into a controlled slide, load your weight through the shot, and then recover instantly for the next ball. Earlier in this clay season in Stuttgart and Madrid, there were moments where Alex looked a half step slow in her transitions. The surface was still something she was negotiating rather than commanding. But Rome changed that. And Strasbourg is showing the result. She is gliding now. Moving across the baseline with a fluidity that players twice her experience spend years chasing. The footwork is not just functional. It is aggressive. She is using her movement as a weapon, positioning herself to take balls earlier and hit from a position of power rather than defense. Now here is the part of this story that tells you everything you need to know about who Alex actually is. She has already earned a direct entry into the main draw at Roland Garros. Let that settle for a moment. A 20-year-old from the Philippines has secured a spot in the main draw of a Grand Slam without needing to qualify. That is a historic milestone for Philippine tennis. That is the kind of achievement that gets written about in newspapers back home, that makes parents cry and young kids pick up rackets for the first time. Most players in that situation would take the week before Paris to rest. They would retreat to a private facility, hit some light balls, stay fresh, protect their body, and arrive at Roland Garros sharp and healthy. Alex entered the Strasbourg qualifiers. She voluntarily walked into one of the most demanding preliminary draws in European clay court tennis, against players who are desperate, dangerous, and fighting for their professional lives. She did not have to be here. She chose to be here. And that choice is the most revealing thing about her entire season so far. This is a player who understands that talent is just a starting point. She knows that at 20 years old, match play is oxygen. The pressure of a live scoreboard, the tension of a third-set tiebreak, the physical and mental demand of winning 3 sets in sweltering European heat against a motivated opponent, that is something you cannot replicate in practice no matter how explosive your sessions are. She needs the reps, she wants the reps, and the field in Strasbourg is going to give her exactly the kind of education she is looking for. The draw has names. That would make most players pause. Madison Keys, former Grand Slam finalist. Katerina Alexandrova, one of the most dangerous ball strikers on clay. Leylah Fernandez, a former US Open finalist with a competitive heart that never quits. Emma Raducanu, Clara Tauson, Magdalena Frech. The main draw is loaded. And in the qualifying rounds, there are veterans like Barbara Krejcikova, a former French Open champion, and other players who know every inch of red clay like the back of their hand. Alex is willingly walking into this. The woman is built different. It is also worth spending a moment on something that does not always get enough attention, and that is the mental evolution happening in parallel with everything physical. At 20 years old, professional tennis asks a frightening amount of you. You are traveling constantly, living out of suitcases, crossing time zones, transitioning from hard courts to grass to clay in the span of weeks. You are managing your body, managing your game, managing the media, managing the expectations of an entire country that is watching your every result. Alex has spoken honestly about how challenging this year has been. She has acknowledged that the level on tour is higher than anything she faced coming up through the juniors. She lost in early rounds in Stuttgart and Madrid. Those were not the results anyone was hoping for. But the way she carried herself through those losses, the way she processed them and came back sharper in Rome, that told a story about her character that the results alone never could. Champions are not made in the wins. They are shaped in the losses, in the moments when the easy thing would be to pull back, to protect yourself emotionally, to give yourself an excuse. Alex has not done that once this season. She has walked straight into the fire every single time. And the fire in Strasbourg is lit and burning. Her doubles experience this clay season has also quietly added dimensions to her singles game that are easy to overlook. She partnered with Haley Baptiste in Rome, taking on the formidable team of Taylor Townsend and Katerina Siniakova. They lost that match, but what Alex took away from it is invaluable. Doubles on clay at the professional level forces you to be precise in ways that singles simply does not demand. Your passing shots have to be perfect. Your returns have to be controlled and purposeful. Your ability to read the net player's positioning and find the open court with one stroke has to be instinctive. Every skill sharpened in doubles bleeds directly into singles, and you can see the evidence of that in the way Alex is hitting in Strasbourg. There is a precision to her ball placement now that feels new. She is not just hitting hard. She is hitting to specific zones with specific intentions. Talking about her physicality feels almost inadequate because the numbers do not capture what it actually looks like. But she has been open about the fact that her physical conditioning this year has improved dramatically. Clay court tennis at the elite level is a cardiovascular and muscular endurance test unlike anything else in professional sport. Matches run long. Rallies run long. You spend entire sets in a defensive crouch, legs burning, lungs screaming, fighting to stay within arm's reach of a point. The ability to maintain the same quality of shot from the first game to the deciding game of the third set is what separates good clay court players from great ones. And what the people watching her practice sessions in Strasbourg are reporting is that she is not fading. She is sustaining the intensity from the first ball to the last. Her core rotation through the forehand is powerful and repeatable. Her first step to wide balls is explosive and consistent. She is not rationing her energy. She is spending it freely because she has built the kind of physical foundation that allows her to do that. The road to this moment wins through years of sacrifice that most people watching a YouTube video about a tennis player never fully appreciate. Alex left home young to train abroad. She committed to the Rafa Nadal Academy at an age when most kids are still figuring out who they are. She trusted a process that demanded everything from her before it gave anything back. The clay court swing earlier this season, with the early exits in Stuttgart and Madrid, must have tested that trust. There must have been moments on those courts where the gap between where she was and where she wanted to be felt impossibly wide. And then Rome happened. And the gap started closing. And now Strasbourg is happening. And every forehand she hits in practice is a reminder that the process worked. The French Open is waiting. Roland Garros with its slow red clay and its baseline wars and its three-set marathons in front of packed Parisian crowds is exactly the kind of stage that a player like Alex was built for. The topspin, the movement, the endurance, the tactical intelligence to construct long points without losing patience. These are not weaknesses she has had to develop. These are the foundation of her game. Strasbourg is the final tune-up. The qualifiers are the sharpening stone. And if she battles through this draw the way her practice sessions suggest she is capable of doing, she will arrive in Paris not as a promising young player hoping to compete, but as a tested, battle-hardened professional who has already proven she can push the world number 2 on clay in the weeks leading up to the biggest clay court tournament on earth. That is a different player. That is a player who scares people. The story of Alex is still being written, and we are living through one of its most compelling chapters right now. A 20-year-old who chose the hard road when the easy one was right in front of her. A player whose practice court has become a scene of genuine excitement in the days before one of the sport's most prestigious events. A Filipina standing on the red dirt of France and making every person watching believe that something special is coming. The first match of the qualifiers is set. The clay is ready. And Alex, heavy forehand loaded and footwork sharp as it has ever been, is absolutely ready to go.